Today in the Smuggler's Room, we're building control panels for this guy.
That's coming up. What's up, you awesome geeks? I'm Brian and welcome to the Smuggler's Room. This week, this chubby geek is super excited to be working with one of our favorite makers, Bob and his team at I Like to Make Stuff. That's right, our friend Bob reached out to us because he had a project in mind that was right up our alley. A project from a galaxy far, far away, and we were all too eager to jump in and help wherever we could. So Bob, thank you so much for inviting us along to this awesome project. At I Like to Make Stuff, they wanted to build a Rebel base console that looked like it was pulled right out of the Star Wars film. And for our part, Bob asked if we could build some control panels to mount on the front of the AV/server rack that they're housing their audio equipment in. Now, before we do that, we need to break down some of the design elements. One of the questions we get the most often is, how do you achieve that Star Wars look? And for me, it all starts with the right texture. These designs you see in so many set pieces from the film is what draws me in specifically. And we often talk about the set decorators and designers following very simple lines and patterns, and this is especially true for control panel builds. You can see here in these images that the panel consists of 4 main features: blue and white square tiles or buttons, pinstriping that often outlines various sections of the panel, solid accent colors to distinguish specific parts and pieces, and surface details that are often called greeblies. You can also point out that there's LEDs and computer screens, but that's sort of a given. Now, before we go too much further down the rabbit hole, let's start with the design. And in order to do that, we need reference material. Now, for this project, Bob said they were going for a Rebel bunker design, or the Rebel base consoles, and he sent this reference photo to me. I honed in on this particular section. Again, you can see the pinstripe, multicolor sections, and a few bits and details. I opened up Adobe Illustrator and set to work creating the layout. Now, for this project, I needed to focus on precision, as these panels are going to fit into a specific AV server rack. That has a standard width, and the mounting holes are set a specific distance apart so that you can mount it in any different configuration. So in order for these panels to be universal for Bob, I'll create the base of these panels on the laser cutter. This allows me to work with some of the flat black acrylic, which matches the reference photos. Once I get the panels drawn up, I can send them to the laser cutter and get everything cut out. I wanted to create a large panel that was packed with features, and then 3 smaller panels that could be easily spread out between other elements that might be in the I Like to Make Stuff rack. They needed to include pinstripes, spot for the blue and white tiles, and those colored areas I mentioned, as well as some predetermined locations for the detailed bits and greeblies, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Another of those iconic designs that I didn't mention are the rocker switches. We modeled ours in Fusion 360, 3D printed them, and then made molds. Now we can reproduce as many of those as we need. For the larger panel, we also wanted to include one of our droid socket designs. Bob was looking for this to go along with his R2-D2 build. We also have a full episode on the design and the construction of the socket set that you can check out. Check the link above or below in the description. Okay, let's talk about pinstriping. For years, I've done this manually using a ruler, razor blade, and car pinstripe tape. And for the record, this is a great solution, and there's no doubt that I'll be using it again. That said, on this build, I wanted to try something different. I used the laser cutter to score the lines for me. Then I could start by peeling away the protective paper on the acrylic and use it like a masking agent. This is going to allow me to use my airbrush and create the pinstripes with paint. I'll be honest, this was one of those moments that got me truly excited. It's such a simple thing that's going to open up a world of possibilities for using a machine to precisely mask out parts for my future projects. When I airbrushed the pinstripes and other details, I had a chance to start the weathering process right here. I purposely feathered some of the pinstripe and the solid sections so that I could achieve the look of an area that had been worn down. This is also something that's difficult to do with car pinstripe tape. I think it needs more practice and maybe another color added, but I like where it's going. Also, for a lot of the solid areas, there's still a good deal of masking to be done, but overall I was really pleased with how this worked out, using the laser cutter to score and mask certain sections. And while I'm getting some painting done, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon community. You may not realize it, but your support every month is helping us to grow the Smuggler's Room and bring you more and better content each and every week. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for the support. Okay, let's talk about the details. Let's talk about the Greeblies. I collect a lot of parts, and I do mean a lot. They come from all over. Old electronics, old tools that no longer work, broken cameras, you name it. This gives you a great variety of pieces that most people do not recognize at first, and that's the key to selling this. The second part is to keep it simple and clean. Limit your details a little bit. There's exceptions to this rule, but most of the control panels have minimal details, which helps them to stand out. You can always add more later if you choose. Now, my friends, hopefully this gives you a bit more insight on some of our favorite film aesthetics. This is obviously our take on it, but I think we get a little closer each time we make a new element. Now, I have no doubt you want to see these panels completely finished, but in order to do that, you're going to have to head over to I Like to Make Stuff and see how Bob incorporates them into his full Rebel Base console build. Again, we want to give a huge thank you to Bob, Josh, Anthony, and the rest of the I Like to Make Stuff team for inviting us to be part of this project. Now you need to follow the link, go over there and check it out. I can't wait for you to see it. Because you know, Bob likes to make stuff. And a lot of times he's building something out of nothing.